You noble diggers, all stand up now.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to be talking about what's Trump's plan. I hate to break it to any conservatives who might run across this, but there is no plan. He's a buffoon. He can't get anything done. He has the power. He has the ability, maybe not within himself, but like present within the offices and powers he's accrued unto himself to just go full Hitler, right? And there'd be nothing to stop him, basically, right? Uh, it would be probably, I don't know, the Dnieper River that might stop him. You know what I'm saying? Um, we are talking about an office with power beyond most mortals' comprehensions. Um, Richard Nixon used to joke that, and he loved this. He thought it was so funny that he would lean over at dinner and be like, I could walk up out of here, and within 15 minutes, 100 million people would be dead, right? Um, so that's the power we're talking about here, right? And the executive office is much like the consuls of Rome are gods on earth. They can do what they want. They can reform society at will, right? It is an office whose power is mostly defined by the wielder, right? By the savvy, by the patience, by the perspicacity of the wielder of the office, right? And so Trump can't get anything done because he's an idiot, right? Hitler, when he got in, uh, did a false flag for the Reichstag fire, and then took hold of executive emergency power and never let go, right? Uh, Trump can't even do that. He can't make himself have the commitment to do that, right? He doesn't have the will to do that. And so we've got nothing to worry about. That's why I haven't changed this plan yet. Trump will go out of office, in my opinion, because they have not the willpower to see through their ends, right? Their goals. And some of the goals are acceptable to the Democrats in a longer term frame, right? Like the devolution of the US dollar, the devolution of working class conditions, right? The devolution of the alliance structures to be more of a subject structure. All of that is within acceptable parameters. But them going full fascist, Confederate expansionist is not. So they're going to let them play with the ball, right? But it's always got to be remembered that it's the North's ball, right? They won the Civil War. They control the world. The Southerners get to play sometimes, right? Um, and the main proof that I have that they're just not serious is this talk of a quick reaction force, right? Or a quick response. It's what I would call a rapid response force, but they're calling a quick reaction. But the point is that the 700 troops that they're going to station on either side of the Mississippi River and have helicoptered into any cities that are deemed to be in unrest are an insignificant force and also will serve as provocation, right? And provocation without, the ability to back it up. 300 troops. If I was a gang leader in Oakland, I could take on 300 troops, right? I don't want to expose myself to any criminality. I think this is within the bounds of reason to war game how I would respond to something like that if I was to go full criminal. It's all hypothetical. But you could just torture someone who works at the local armory, right, wherever that is in California, and then you've got your hands on Stinger missiles for anti-air and Javelin missiles for anti-vehicle operations, and most importantly, in my opinion, 40 millimeter automatic grenade launchers, which will just decimate infantry, right, or troops. So, you know, 300 troops, right? All you do is provoke a civil war, right? And do you have the chutzpah, the stones to commit to nuclear strikes during the Civil War? I believe that the honor system, the weird relations between the two nations will lead to a a nuclear stand down on that kind of attack, right? And so no. And in fact, the civil war that is brewing in America can only be conducted by special operations raids because of this limit on how hot things can get before one side feels nuclear desperation, right? Um, so these 300 troops are too much but not enough for divisional combat, right? Which would appear in the streets of LA if 300 troops tried to occupy, right? Even if they were supported by local National Guards troops, right? Those local National Guards can't be trusted, right? They're not going to bloodthirstily fire upon their own citizens, all of them at least. Some of them will, but not like this rapid reaction force, this quick reaction force. Yeah, so it's just not going to work, right? Um, this all goes to say, right? Even if he was to grab hold of executive power like Hitler, right? Um, their situations are different, right? So their goals are similar, but the situations are different enough that they are not productive towards his end, right? Alligator Alcatraz has destroyed the agricultural industry of America, right? You don't need more crisis to declare a crisis, right? And in fact, the crises that are stocking up are starting to threaten the belief that in Trump, right? That there might be a move to overthrow him. I hear Tom Cotton is, I think it's Tom Cotton, is bringing Jeffrey Epstein survivors to the Capitol to demand the Jeffrey Epstein files. Things are not going his way if you follow the news closely. Um, but his wants, his designs, his what I call Hitlerian designs are actually not his, right? Because he's a buffoon. He doesn't have his own image of the world. He's a member of a caste, right? And he parrots. He goes, "Yeah, it'd be nice to have the Ukraine, but we don't want to upset Russia. Um, we want the minerals, you know. We just want a fair deal." Um, but these wants can be deciphered, right? That they view the world much like how George Orwell predicted, right? That they view a 1984 Oceania versus whatever the two other empires are called. I'll link a map in here. That was the future that was probably coming to pass because the elite didn't buy into the world peace initiatives of the UN, and in fact, even the everyman didn't buy in. That they were still warlike in their nature, right? But that this doesn't make use of the historical parallels and aspirations of the Roman Empire, right? And so they, the Romans, the Americans, viewed Europe much like Greece, right? That it was a cultural significant place that they would like to rule it for their prestige, right? But they had no compunction about rolling over it with legions, right? And looting it and enslaving the populace. Um, and that's how they will, crack down on these Europeans, right? That they are seen as no more than city states, right? That's how they see France, right? A Parisian city state in comparison to the power of the empire, at least, right? And so that's a subject, and they will start to treat them more and more like that. And France no longer has the power to dominate Western Africa, right? Ibrahim Traore, a great man, I'll link a couple pictures in here, um, has kicked them out and is starting to unite West Africa, right? And the empire doesn't really have the power to push them to subjugate them for France anymore, right? And the cooperation will obviously lead to cooperation with China, right? Which is to our detriment. So all this empire talk is bad, but that's how they view the world, right? They want an Italian peninsula of North America where they dominate completely, right? And then they view South America much like the area of northern Italy, Milan, right? That is occupied by Gauls, but it is destined to be American, right? Or Roman. Um, and the city states are to be dominated, subjugated, and brought to heel. So, what's Trump's plan? No plan. He's screwed, I think. But it is indicative of the broader plan that the Americans have, right? Which I think is not going to work because of the environmental flaws we keep putting out in this channel, right? All these plans that were put in place after World War II are playing out, right? But without the environmental factor. Sun Tzu, who is actually called Swinza, uh, would be appalled, right? How can you ignore the environmental factors for these campaigns, right? And the attrition rates that we're going to start to suffer on all our projects, right? These cities that'll disappear into the ocean, right? The roads that'll start to just erupt in heat waves, you know, like buckle and bounce. Um, Dams, rivers drying up. They're untold chaos. We're going to see untold chaos, and it's because these plans didn't think about, well, what's the environment going to be like during? They took it as a constant. So crazy. Have a nice day. Hello, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you. This channel has one mission: to prevent civilizational collapse associated with climate change, to prevent 100 million refugees by 2035, to stop 7 billion from starving to death by 2075. And we will do this through one main vehicle. We mean to unite the Anglosphere. We will do this by convincing the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III to apply for statehood as one. And then with this new power, we will be able to negotiate in good faith with the rest of the world on how to tackle this crisis. Thank you and enjoy.